you sweet, beautiful people. Thank you so much for stopping by today. I truly appreciate you being here. If you're new, my name is Becky, and welcome to Kinda Shabby. I enjoy sharing all things DIY and decorating, and if you enjoy those things too, then stick around. If you like what you see, then please subscribe, like, and comment. Now today, I was planning on us making some plaster flowers, and this was a ginormous Pinterest fail. I couldn't get the consistency right. It was either too thick or too thin. It was an unmitigated mess. So, plan B. What I'm going to be doing today is showing you how you can create beautiful home decor using your home printer. So, I'm going to get the dog out of the craft room and we're going to get these projects started. All right, let's go outside. We have 4 different projects that we're going to be creating with our printer today. We will be painting this basket and applying a French label. We'll also apply a French label to our painted Bookstack. We're going to use simple copy paper just to put a cute little image into this picture frame, and we will be using the Avery iron-on fabric transfers for our kitchen hand towel. So the first thing that we need to do is get our painted projects going. I'll probably paint this in plaster. That's my favorite go-to color, and I'll have a beautiful gray wash that I'll be putting on the basket. Then while those are sitting off to dry, we'll just move on to these other projects here. So let me pull out my paints and we'll get started. We're going to begin with our Bookstack. I don't like to hot glue these because I like reusing things in different projects, and if they're hot glued, if I try to take them apart, it just makes a big old mess. So I've just found it easier to take my double-sided craft tape. I picked this up at Hobby Lobby, and I will just run several strips this way and this way, and then do the same thing on the bottom of this one. Just run it down and run it across this way. Actually, I need to get that a little closer to the edge. There we go. Then I'm just going to put these down on top of each other like that. That way it holds the books together when we paint them and decoupage our image onto the side here. Now I have decided not to use plaster, but to use Ivory. So this is the Waverly Chalk Paint in the color Ivory that I pick up from Walmart. And I use this full strength. I'm not watering this down. I am going to be watering down the mixture that I will be painting the basket with. And you're just going to start. I don't have to paint the bottom. All I'm going to be doing is painting the spines and the top here and let it dry, and then we're going to be moving on to the next project. You can use hardback books. You can use the books without the covers on them. You can use paperback books. Whatever is going to work best for you. It's all in what you like, and it's all in what you have on hand around the house. I'm just painting to make them look a little more shabby chic. And this is what we have so far. 2 coats on the top, 1 coat on the spines, because we're actually going to be covering that up with our decoupaged image. So as long as those bright colors don't show through, we're good. And then I just kind of dry brushed on the ends here, and I'll show you with this side here how I did that. Basically, you're just going to take your brush, and I like to use a tile as a palette just to dab off some of the excess, and then I'm just going to go along those bright colors there just to kind of blend that in. So it gives a nice aged appearance without a full coverage, and you can paint the whole thing if you like. You don't have to. And this part's really not going to show anyway, but if you had this and it was up against a mirror and you could see that, for some people that would kind of drive them crazy. So we're just going to dry brush that on like that, and then we're good to go. So I'm going to set this aside, and we're going to start washing our basket with a beautiful gray color. Now when we wash our basket doing a color wash, I'm going to be using the Waverly in Silver Lining. It's just a beautiful pale neutral gray, and I've mixed that with some water. So what I did in my little mason jar, I put an equal amount of paint to water. So I did approximately 1 tablespoon of each and just mixed it around to make a thin consistency. Now be careful when you're painting with watered down paint. Don't get too happy with that brush, because its thinner consistency will make it more likely to splatter. And I'm just going to take it and we're just going to start washing it. Look how pretty that is. We're just going to start washing it. Because it's a thinner consistency, it helps the paint to absorb into the fibers of the basket a little better. And we're just going to carefully run our brush over that so we don't get paint everywhere. So while my iron is heating up, I'm going to go ahead and insert the picture into our frame. And I get these cute little frames at IKEA. So I took this image and I just did a Google search for vintage roses, and I did a fussy cut, meaning that I took some sharp scissors and just cut all around the edges. And I'm going to place it on this scrapbooking paper that looks like shiplap. I could have printed this image just on cardstock and just put it in my frame, and it would have been perfect just like that. But I thought that the shiplap look just gave it just that extra little pop of fun. I'm gonna lay this down in here so I can see how to line up my shiplap paper. Just a little bit here that I'm going to have to cut. And let's see how that fits. Perfect. That looks good. So I'll put a little bit of tape on the back. I haven't stuck it down just yet, because now what I'm going to do is lay this face up and take my roses, and I'm just going to line them up right there and just see how that is going to look in the frame. And now that I like how that looks, I'm just going to take a simple Elmer's glue stick and lift up on one side of it and start putting some glue here and hold that down, so that I can flip the other side over. And when I flip that up, I can just apply all of the glue here and just stick that down. And that is easy peasy lemon squeezy. Just put our image in our frame and put the back on, and we're done. Now we're going to be ironing on our design onto our tea towel that is just a flour sack cloth that I pick up from Walmart. I made this design, mind your own biscuits and life will be gravy. Now this was in Microsoft Word, and you can use any font that you want. But before you use your Avery to be able to iron that down, you have to reverse the image. I get these at Walmart, and when you open the product here, all of the instructions are included. So it's so simple to follow along. Now I have made several projects in the Avery.com template space. When I used to have my sign painting party business, I made my aprons. So everyone who was an attendee at the paint party would wear one of my aprons. And you can put these on pillows, hats, t-shirts, tote bags. These iron-ons are just so versatile. Now before we iron this down, I'm going to cut an oval shape around this outside of the design, because if I ironed it down like this, the tendency of the design is to peel up on the corner. I'm just going to take my scissors and go around the edge in a nice oval. So now that I have that all cut all around the outside edges and there are no sharp corners or harsh edges, now we need to heat up our ironing board. So I'm going to press up underneath here for just a second. And we're going to heat up the area that we're going to be applying our design to. I also have a timer set. Because I'm using a full sheet, we are going to be applying pressure to this area, heat and pressure, for 3 minutes. So now that that's all warmed up and ready to go, I'm going to be hovering over. Okay, that looks good right there. And now I'm going to start my timer. And you're going to start and just hold for just a few seconds in one area. You're not ironing in a circular motion, you're just holding and pressing. Do not want any steam, any water in your iron. And we're just going to keep covering the surface over and over, left to right, top to bottom, until we have applied heat and pressure for 3 minutes. And you want to firmly push down. The suggestions say to use a surface other than an ironing board because you just can't put enough pressure on an ironing board. And I'll show you what I have here in my craft room that I use when I'm finished ironing here. So now that we have applied heat and pressure for 3 minutes, now we are going to let it cool for 2 minutes. So I'm going to set my timer again. And then after it cools, we will start to remove the backer sheet. I'm going to leave my iron on because if we have any areas as we're pulling up that backer sheet that it looks like it did not apply well, we're just going to put it back down and iron it over again and let it cool and try again. Okay, our timer is going off. And I'm going to start peeling back and just see what we have here. Well, so far so cute. Oh goodness. That is adorable. For my little custom ironing board here, I just took a piece of plywood. It was just a scrap out in the garage, and I covered it with a single layer of the polyfill batting. I picked this up at Walmart. So I used the batting and I stapled down the batting. Then I stapled fabric over the top. And then I just glued another piece of fabric over the staples, so when I have it on my table, it's not going to scratch my table. So now what we're going to do, now that we have our cute little design on there, we're going to apply a ruffle. Look how cute that is, buffalo check, and I get this at Walmart. This is the pre-cut fabric. And this is the Waverly, and it's 1 yard of fabric, and I only used a 45-inch long by 6-inch wide strip here that we're going to be using to apply our ruffle. So I'm going to adjust the camera angle down so you can see how I'm going to do the ruffle, and then we'll get that stitched on and start moving on to our last two projects. So I am just going to be doing little tuck pleats here, and this is a pretty easy process. I'm going to pull out some pins. I'm going to need some pins here, and what I'm going to do is start at this end and align this end, and I'm doing about a 1/2 inch overlap. And I'm just going to pin it right there. Then I'm going to come all the way down here on this end and overlap that about a 1/2 inch and pin that on. Now I will find that I've got this fabric all here. I am going to hold this up and find the middle. I'm going to give it a little pinch, and then I'm going to pin it down below a 1/2 inch over that seam, and this is my middle right here. So I'm going to pin that. Also gives me another loop here and another loop here, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to bring this up, find the middle, make a little pinch pleat, and then pin that down. So this way, once we've got all of this pinned down and I start making the pleats, it'll make a little more sense. But we're doing this just to make sure that we have an even number of pleats. So each of our areas, we're just going to keep finding the middle, making a little pleat, and pinning it below. And this will start to make sense in a minute. Now that we have all of our big loops created, we're just going to go back in and start forming little pleats. So then each section will have its own little pleat. We see that we are starting to get uniform pleats, and you will have to remove some of your pins and repin because your pleat needs to go there. And you're just going to keep going down and evenly placing your pleats. And here we have our pleats all pinned into place. And now I'm just going to go take this over to the sewing machine and stitch it down using my presser foot as the guide, and just stitch all the way down to stitch that into place. This turned out adorable. I love it. How cute is that? Now, if you're interested in using these Avery fabric iron-on transfers, this is what the packaging looked like when I bought it. However, the last time I was at Walmart, the packaging has changed. Your packaging may look different than mine. So let's do our last two projects here. For our book stack and for our basket, I printed off these beautiful rose labels, and I just did a Google image search for French labels with roses, and this is what I came up with. And this particular image even had these two on here, so I didn't even have to resize it or anything. Now the interesting thing about this is I have printed this on muslin fabric. Yes, you can print on fabric. Now this is an extremely thin, lightweight fabric that I have just, let me move that tape there, I just tape it onto plain cardstock. Now when I send this through my printer, I take everything out of the printer, every other paper except for this. I actually do the same thing when I am using the Avery iron-on transfers. I take everything out of that box except for the project that I want printed. I don't want anything to get hung up in there. If you want to print on fabric, you can proceed with caution. Some machines would take the fabric, some may not. I've never had any trouble printing on fabric. But I'm just going to cut these two apart here. And then we're going to decoupage onto our book stack, and we're going to be hot gluing onto our basket because this is not an even surface there. I'm leaving it on the cardstock while I cut it. It's much easier to cut that fabric around that design if you leave it on your cardstock. And now you can see, that's gorgeous. That is going to be so pretty on our basket. Oh, cannot wait to get that on the basket. And when I stage these and take the beauty shots of the products here, you'll be able to see all of these images much better. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to stand my Bookstack up this way and just see how I want to align it before I start putting any of that glue down. So I have it where I think it's going to look good. So I'm going to take my Mod Podge, put on my glasses. So now what I'm going to do is take my brush and I'm going to roll this back. Hold this side with one hand, roll this back, and apply that Mod Podge all over that spine. And I also am getting it in between the books as well. Get that all down in there. Now take my hand and lay that back down. While it's still wet, you can reposition it. Roll that side back. Same thing. Put all your Mod Podge all in there. Now I'm going to take the opposite end of a tiny paintbrush and I'm just going to go in between the spine there just to make sure that that is going to stay sealed all down in there. Oh, I'm loving that. That looks really pretty. So now we are going to take and put Mod Podge over the top of that image to seal that in. So it acts as a glue when you're putting it down, and then it acts as a sealer when you're putting it over the top. And then when this dries, it will dry clear, but how beautiful is that? And once that dries, I will embellish the top of the book with some lace and also some greenery. And last but not least, we are going to be hot gluing our beautiful label here onto our basket. So I'm just going to center it up. And then I'm going to do the same thing that I did when I did the decoupage. Take my hand, roll back half of it, and put it just a little bit along the edges. Being careful not to burn myself, because I've seen me do it. And then, that way I have that edge tacked down. So now I don't have to worry about it shifting on me as I'm going to glue the rest of it down. And we're just going to keep doing that same process, smoothing that out until we come to the end of our label. And then rub over it just to make sure everything is down. And how beautiful did that turn out? I can't wait to get these all staged up and styled for you so you can see how beautiful they really are. Our little tea towel turned out just adorable. Biscuits and gravy is a true Southern tradition. And if you've never had any, I hope you can find a special little diner with a special little someone and give it a try. Simple pieces of paper, along with some lace and greenery, gave a quick and easy update to this beautiful little frame. I enjoy using fabric so much more than paper when it comes to decoupage. Look how beautiful this project turned out. Just a little bit of paint and some fabric scraps instantly transformed these outdated books into an oh so shabby chic project. This simple, beautiful basket would make a great gift for anyone who loves shabby chic. Thank you so much for joining me today. I truly appreciate you spending a bit of your time here with me. Please remember to subscribe, like, and comment. Come back next week for more kinda shabby, but always chic, crafty inspirations. Until next week, my friend, be blessed.